3 white supremacists in Virginia have been taken into custody after allegedly plotting to start a race war. Oh boy. Now, according to court documents, the FBI claims that a man named Robert Doyle, Ronald Beasley and Chaney, and Charles Halderman were planning on doing a shooting spree when it comes to several black churches, as well as planting bombs in the area, in addition to plotting a local jewelry dealer, rob an armored car, and rob a Oklahoma gun dealer. Now, agents say that these 3 men were going to use the proceeds from their robberies to actually purchase property and weapons so that they could train for the race war. Oh boy. Now, on that, so does that mean these guys count as domestic terrorists? Because they should. Isn't that why we should start looking into more domestic terrorism? Isn't that why we should actually increase the number of people looking into domestic right-wing terrorism? We've only got one guy looking at it. We used to have more. Until the right wing got pissed off. Hey, why are you looking at us? You should be looking at Islamic terrorism. Well, no, we should be looking at all terrorism. Not just Islamic, and not just right wing. We should look at all terrorism. But no, they got butthurt. And so, Obama, of course, caved and said, okay, we're gonna reduce the size of the task force to fight right-wing terrorism. But still, luckily, even with the reduced task force, they still were able to find these guys. Now, how did they find them? Well, according to authorities, they had received a tip that the men had begun plotting their attacks back in September, and the FBI had then assigned an undercover agent to meet with them multiple times to try to arrange purchasing weapons and explosives. So, I mean, good work, right? I mean, look, I go after law enforcement when they fuck up, or when they profile people who don't necessarily need to be profiled. But in this case, I actually have to give them credit for stopping what could have been a very deadly string of attacks. Now, the 3 men were taken into custody over the weekend when agents and police swarmed their home in Chesterfield County. Now, there was a neighbor there who saw this happen, who did not want to be identified, and he kind of explained the scene. Quote, I walked to the end of the cul-de-sac, saw 15 police cars marked and unmarked, and canine searching, and there were people wearing camo and carrying big weapons. You would need big weapons for people like this. So once again, no problem there. So here's the question, right? And I'm sure you're probably thinking about this too. When will the media consider this a terrorism plot? Will they actually say, attempt to carry out terrorist attack foiled by FBI? Will you see that on CNN? Will you see that on Fox News? That is the question. I mean, what else can you call it other than terrorism? Now, you have a group of racists here, right, who hate their fellow Americans, who hate Christians that happen to be black. Remember, they're going to bomb churches, and they want to terrorize them to the point of where they fight back so they can have their quote-unquote race war. That sounds like terrorism. And this is a lot like the attack from the Charleston shooter, who was also performing an act of terror, right? He was also a huge racist, believed in the Confederacy, and he told the peaceful churchgoers, as he was murdering them one by one, he told one of them, I have to do it. You're raping our women. Yeah. So, this, as I said, this is terrorism. Plain and simple. And sadly, these people are continuing to be affected by this horrible virus called hatred and terror and racism. Now, the thing about this is that in a lot of situations where you see these hateful attacks, that tends to bring more people together than drive them apart, and it's kind of ironic. See, it's because most people aren't racist. And it's true. Most people are not filled with this kind of venomous hatred towards other people. And to be honest, I couldn't imagine living my life with this kind of hatred inside me. I couldn't imagine being these guys, being one of these people, having that kind of hate against my fellow Americans, against my fellow man. And I will never understand what it's like to be like that. Especially since they're no different than I am. They're no different. Oh, you look slightly different than me. And you're still a human being. You're still a person. You're still an American. What's the difference? And as I said, racism, it's never made any sense to me, and it never will. And it kind of makes me want to pity these people who are so hate-filled for absolutely no reason. And then, when I get to that point of wanting to pity them, I kind of remember how dangerous these people can really be, and it sort of makes my pity fall apart. But once again, I've got to give the FBI, I've got to give law enforcement a lot of credit here, as well as the person who gave that tip. Because, as I said, they just avoided a situation that could have been ultimately even more tragic.